On to another New York team, the real dumpster fire in New York, and that's the Giants. They did get John Harbaugh to try to drag them out of the cellar. And everybody's excited for his pairing with Jackson Dart. Listen to Jackson Dart speak glowingly about playing for John Harbaugh.
He loves the way that I play the game. And I think that was one thing that kind of, drawn our relationship from a competitive standpoint. Like, he knows how much, I love the sport. How passionate I am to go out there and compete at a high level, and he's the exact same way. So I can't wait to play for a coach like him who instills like a relentless mindset from his coaching staff to his players to the whole organization. So, he's kind of just the general.
Very good vibes around the New York Giants. Big Blue is about to reemerge. Right now this morning, I've got them winning the NFC East. Philadelphia second.
Stop it. Come on. Is that real?
Yeah.
You're going on record with that.
Yeah.
Tell the team to put that on social media. Let's see the reaction.
No, I think
win the NFC East.
Yeah.
I'll take the other side of that bet. Can we get that on one of these prediction markets so I can make a fortune? I mean, Colin, seriously, win the NFC East.
Yes.
Let me just remind you of Jackson Dart's record last year. 4-8, 15 tutties, 5 picks, sacked 35 times.
Well, they're going to draft a right tackle probably with their first pick.
Okay.
So they're going to solve their O-line. Neighbors comes back. So does Scattaboo. They've got plenty of, and Jackson Dart now gets a better coach, and he gets a second year. Yeah, listen,
I thought there's going to be Brian Daboll. I thought Brian Daboll was a great offensive mind.
I think Brian Daboll did a good job, but John Harbaugh's resume is much more impressive.
Oh, this is funny. Oh, I can't wait to talk about this. I can't wait to talk about this from so many different directions right now because, one, it was just the worst thing ever that Brian Daboll, isn't with Josh Allen, or that he wasn't with the Eagles, that he chose the Titans, all that type of stuff. But he's this great coach, and so you would expect Jackson Dart individually at least to get more out of him, So that's one thing. The other thing, Jackson Dart says, John Harbaugh loves the way I play the game. I mean, Colin was saying that Jackson Dart needs to change how he plays the game, so you don't want to hear that. You want to hear, no, your game needs to evolve. Your game needs to change. I mean, heck, Colin wanted to get rid of Jackson Dart. He was like, move on from him. Do the easy thing. Move on from Jackson Dart. So they're winning the NFC East. I love it. I love it. Listen, the reality is Harbaugh's influence on Jackson Dart is not what's important whatsoever because Harbaugh is not the offensive mind. And Jackson Dart's game does need to evolve, and it does need to change. I love watching Jackson Dart play. Let me be so clear about that. I love watching Jackson Dart play. I love the energy. I love the juice. I even defended the Mayhem after they beat the Eagles, and they were dancing and celebrating. I don't think that's the long-term play, and that's not the long-term culture. But considering who the New York Giants have been for all these years, I'm totally on board with it, but I do want to see an evolution. And honestly, I'm just being real honest, and I just praise Jackson Dart, and I'm all excited this, that, and the third. I don't love Jackson Dart actually saying John Harbaugh loves the way I play the game. It's actually a weirder soundbite than I think people can understand. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stick the landing with trying to explain this, but it's a little more self-enter. It's actually a little bit more of an egocentric, self-centered kind of soundbite. It really is. It really is. And when you're talking about a young quarterback who needs to develop, who needs to grow, who needs to evolve, it's a little bit more Kyler Murray than I personally would want. Dan Lowski talked about that when he was talking to Kyler about, what this team needs to do to be better or whatever. And he's like, I need to have the ball. I need to make more plays, and kind of unpacked really well. That's not the way to go about it. And I really appreciate that. And he was talking about that with potentially Kyler Murray going to Minnesota and how it would work with the Kevin Unnell, etc. And so a comment like this, he said, yeah, he loves the way I play the game. Because that's probably his response, his counter to people saying, hey, you need to kind of change how you play. And he's like, well, coach says he loves the way I play the game, and I don't love that. I really don't. I'm just being honest with y'all. I keep it 100%. And so yeah, I'm a firm believer that and listen, I think Jackson Dart actually had a great rookie year. So that's why when J-Mac's talking about his win-loss record and how many sacks he took in this, that, and the third, I'm like, you expecting Jackson Dart to be perfect? The Giants were a mess. They fired their coach in the middle of the season. Injuries are just, they're getting decimated with injuries. And yet he was pretty successful, all things considered. And a handful of those wins were solely on the shoulders of Jackson Dart, making plays and doing everything he could just to keep his team in the game, let alone win the game. So it's actually quite impressive, incredibly impressive. So you don't need to get lost in the exact touchdown interception ratio or how many sacks you took or this, that, and the third. Yeah, Jackson Dart needs to improve and grow and become a better quarterback this season than he was last season. Great. Glad we got that figured out. I don't know if the Giants are going to win the NFC East. I think they're certainly going to be better than they have been in years past, but I'm very much on the record where I'm encouraged by the New York Giants and, believe in a Jackson Dart, but it's not clear to me. And again, I think Harbaugh does bring a maturity and an organization to the organization that they have not had. And so I do think that helps. But for me personally, and this I think still is my take, and we'll see how the offseason continues to unfold, I just think right now that the floor has been raised this off-season ASIN so far with the hirings and whatnot, and the ceiling hasn't. So the floor has been raised, but to me, I'm yet to see the ceiling. And again, I'm a fan of a Harbaugh. If you're a struggling team, if you're a team that just can't seem to go in any consistent positive direction, then hiring a Harbaugh is a great hire. But if you're looking to be like, it's time for a new era, it's time. We're hitting the reset button. We got a new young quarterback. We got this young core Malik, Scadaboo, etc. Like, now it's time to take it to this next level. It's like Harbaugh's not the guy for me. If you told me that the Giants got I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me. The guy who literally just won the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. Oh my gosh. It'll come to me eventually. But, him, whatever his name Dave is right now, I would feel infinitely better. And that would be, I would be like, all right, you know what? I don't know if the floor is raised, but the potential for the ceiling through the roof, right? Like that to me ushers in a new era of New York Giants football. When you have Koviak, see, I told you I was going to get there. And so to me, that's what it is. So yeah, and I'm curious to see what the relationship between Harbaugh and Jackson Dart is, because I talked about this in a previous video about the evolution of Jackson Darton and kind of the recklessness of his nature. And, people rightfully so said in the comments section, you don't want to go too hard and coach that out of him, et cetera, because it's a lot of the stuff that he does is great. And I totally agree with that, right? I forget if I was able to actually reply to those specific comments, but I certainly read them, and it's true. And that's why you got to be able to stick the landing. To me, it's what makes Andy Reid so great at what he does, because he's done this with Michael Vick, Donovan McNabb, obviously Patrick Mahomes. He's so good at dealing with quarterbacks who have a lot of various tools in the toolbox a lot. Who would have been able to get the best out of Lamar Jackson? Andy Reid, right? More than a Sean McVay, more than a Shanahan. And it's just like Andy Reid. Andy Reid to me has been the best coach to understand how to balance a quarterback who is, the equivalent of Steph Curry shooting logo threes, where it's kind of like, all right, I don't love that he does that all the time, but I got to let him do it, some of the time. But I also got to figure out when it's right, when it's wrong, when it's time for me to say, hey, not right now, right? And he's done that again over 2 decades with, again, McNabb, Vick, Mahomes, etc. And so when you're coaching a quarterback, any player really, but of course, obviously a quarterback who can just do a lot of different things, that is Jackson Dart. Whether people realize it or not, it's more complicated actually. It's a balance. And Harbaugh failed that with Lamar. And again, it's not 100% his job on one side. It's his job because he's the head coach. Another is that he's, as Jackson Dart said, he's the general. So it is going to be a different dynamic, and Andy Reid is going to be way more equipped, obviously, because he's the offensive coach in a way that horror ball isn't. But yeah, you need development. You need development. Your game needs to evolve. And if it does, then I think Jackson Dart has like superstar potential. I mean, I just think his game was wildly exciting. To me, it all depends on one, how consistently can he do some of the things that we saw, and two, can his game evolve? That's what it gets boiled down. If his game can evolve, and if he's also can consistently do what I've seen everyone keeps talking about, like Caleb Williams, he's like Josh Allen, and you know, this, that, and the third, and it's like, well, honestly, throw in Jackson Dart in that converse if you're excited by some of the playmaking abilities of Jaden Daniels, obviously before he got injured, and Caleb Williams and Drake May. It's like Jackson Dart has a lot of that juice, but you also got to be careful. You can't get too excited too soon, because the NFL is littered with players who can do really exciting stuff. Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, and whatnot. And it's like their games haven't evolved. And there they are. And Lamar Jackson's game, it's evolved. He's become like a better passer and whatnot, but not at the same progression that I would say a Patrick Mahomes' game evolved. And lo and behold, they're still just relying on Lamar Jackson just being athletically gifted, just being a really special athlete, right? And really special off script, because there hasn't been enough evolution. And it's just like, okay, well then you're just relying on Lamar's greatness in these individual moments. It's a tough way to live. Whereas compare it to, and I always reference the Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes in this thing, because they obviously rely on Patrick Mahomes' greatness and specialness, but it's not the foundation. It's not the foundation of what makes them win. And when they needed to rely on Patrick Mahomes' greatness, he got smoked, right? I mean, in the last Super Bowl, and it was like, because it's not enough. You that can only take you so far. So I'm interested to see Harbaugh now, because Harbaugh has way more power and control of this team than he did with the Baltimore Ravens. That was Lamar Jackson's team. That was Lamar Jackson. And I think it's never good when the quarterback, no matter who it is, whether it's Mahomes, whether it's Josh Allen, no matter who it is, Tom Brady, the coach needs to be the man. The coach needs to be the leader. The coach needs to be the true general. Not the quarterback, not the tight end, not this, not that, not the owner. It's the coach. Everyone needs to know that's the coach. That's coach. Coach walks in, you listen, right? Like that's what it is. Harbaugh did not have that with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. He did not have that. And I'm curious, was that more of Harbaugh's fault and more of him just kind of, allowing that to take place, being more of a player's coach in those moments? Or was it just how it happened, and before you knew it, you're just like, wow, this is just a situation I'm in. So I'm interested to see what Harbaugh does from that perspective with the New York Giants. But yeah, it's interesting. The Giants are definitely, for the first time in a bit, in a while, like legitimately interesting in a positive way. I mean that, to be very clear, I mean that positively. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the New York Giants, Jackson Harbaugh? How do you feel? Are they winning the NFC East? Are they reclaiming their spot at the top? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something connected that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.